rapid fire talk. It's 7 topics, about 5 minutes. That's the idea here. We'll see if we can stay in that window and stay in line there. And let's begin with the rumor of the day of Wednesday, which is Odell Beckham. Mark Malusis of WFAN said on Wednesday morning that a source told him the Browns and the Vikings are in discussions on a trade that would send OBJ to the Vikings for a second and a fifth. The trade is not done, but the deal is being discussed. Some people thought that would be explosive. Odell and Mike Zimmer together, but alas, John Shefty says that ain't happening. He went on radio, 97.1, said he texted a source, and the Viking source who, according to the emoji, white guy, if that narrows it down, maybe with yellow or orange hair, Shefty said, not happening. What do you think of all this?
Well, do you get rid of Stephon Diggs, who is like the Odell Beckham divided by 3, who's a diva, but really not that big of a diva because he's been a major player on a winner now for half a decade, to go for Odell Beckham Jr., which, again, a little bit more productive, better player, never won, and a big-time pain in the ass? I don't know. When I first saw the rumor, you started thinking to yourself, well, they have multiple first-round picks. They're not giving up one of those. All of a sudden, you get Odell with Thielen and Cooks. You got multiple first-round. They can be kind of good. It's a bold move. A little win now. Spielman and Zimmer feel like there's some pressure on them to get over the hump. Then I also thought, is there, and one thing I've been hearing for a while is that, this new regime in Cleveland, Odell is not some sacred cow. Now, granted, he's only been there a year. Would it be great for his career to get traded, basically be on his third team in 12 months?
No.
Like, it'd feel like it'd be headed the wrong way.
Also, here's the other part of it. We talked about Brandon Cooks the other day and how Brandon Cooks has been on a bunch of teams, but Brandon Cooks has played with Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Jared Goff, and now he's going to go play with Deshaun Watson. It'd be Odell playing with end of his career Eli, basically, Baker Mayfield, and then if this were even a thing, Kirk Cousins. Now, okay, let's say it's not a thing. I think the other part of the story is just the idea that this gets floated and people go, I think the reaction, like your reaction, my reaction, was, yeah, okay. And especially when you see a second and a fifth?
Yeah.
Yeah, you go, are you getting a first for the guy right now? If the Browns, who kind of need him, are trying to trade him or need players like him.
But don't you think, I do think they get a first. Like, would the Green Bay Packers give up their first-round pick for him? They'd have to think about it, right? They're kind of in win-now mode. They need a wide receiver. The 49ers were in the Odell Beckham conversation last year, I think really heavily, right? And it didn't match up because the Browns were offering pick 17. The Niners weren't going to offer pick 2, but they didn't have enough juice later. So it didn't fit. But a year later has enough changed with the Niners making the Super Bowl, acquiring Debo, Kittle becoming just a superstar, Kyle proving that he can make other guys good. Does it make as much sense to go? You could say probably not, but then you go, well, you do have 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
I would say no if you just had 31. Now, there's a financial aspect to it. I don't know if it fits right now with the cap. But if I said that if I told you today the 49ers traded pick 31 for Odell Beckham, you wouldn't hate it.
I wouldn't hate it, but to not hate it, I'd have to ignore some obvious red flags. One of which, and you said this to me when we were just talking about this on Tuesday, which wasn't even related to the rumor, just could the Niners find a way to try and get Odell now? Because in theory, he's cheaper than he was last year. Can you bring Odell Beckham in when your best player would be making pennies on the dollar compared to Odell? So can you bring him in when George Kittle, who plays on the same side of the football, who Odell is going to want the ball,
giving you everything he's had,
everything that you want out of a star player, and he's got a contract coming up, and you're going to tell him, nah, you're not worth what receivers are worth. You're worth what tight ends are worth. You're not worth as much as Odell Beckham. Is that a good situation, particularly if Odell is not a guy that comes in and is just like easy fit to your locker room?
It's been a defining attribute of the Patriots era. They were always very, very cognizant of that, of a guy that they had a player on their team who'd earned pelts on the wall, either won a championship or had put it on the line in big games, who makes $1 million, and then you bring in a guy that immediately makes $15 million. Now he's a great player, but it's like, hey guys, what the fuck are we doing? And then it's like, well, we were offering you new deals. Yeah, Austin Hooper contract. I'm better than Odell Beckham. So you're right. It becomes
right.
much more. It's much more complicated a year later than it was last year if they could have made it fit. I think there are.
And the other part of this, did you just trade DeForest Buckner for Odell Beckham?
But I think back to the Vikings, do they make much sense when they just got rid of Diggs, who was kind of a pain in their ass?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll give you a team that you always got to keep an eye on. Now, again, we'd have to look finances. It's a little complicated. You know, the Eagles are always they're in the mix for this shit.
Yeah.
You know, and Andrew Berry, who's now the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, was just with Philly for the last year. It's just
good points.
They're always sniffing around.
All good points.
Now, I'd be shocked. Like, could they do? We'll give you our second round pick and maybe next year's two twos for them, something like that. Again, they don't like spending premium
and those aren't
players.
Well, but the Browns would go, God, that's not even that second round pick is not even a premium second round pick in all likelihood. Like the Eagles are good enough, right?
Yeah.
So you might.
But it speaks sometimes, Guy, to the value we have on the outside. Is the value? Look at DeAndre Hopkins. Clearly, there weren't a lot of teams beating down the door for DeAndre Hopkins at a first round value, which is kind of crazy, but they just weren't.
All right. Speaking of evaluating value, Christian McCaffrey signed his contract. We know that. That's not the new news. But one thing that Albert Breer wrote on Monday was the estimated guarantee was slightly over half. Half of the contract would be $32 million. If it's slightly over half, I don't know what we'd give it, 36, let's just say, which would, $4 million is more than slightly. But the point is, it's less. That is less than Ezekiel Elliott's $45 million guaranteed, even though this deal was presented as more money than Ezekiel Elliott. So who won this deal? And you're looking, by the way, if you're watching the YouTube, on McCaffrey's and Zeke's stats. Who won this deal then? The Panthers? 2 years away removed? Because McCaffrey would go 2 years from free agency or getting tagged. I got paid. And if the guaranteed money's half of the actual value, that would make it Middlecoff what? A 2-year extension, not a 4-year extension if the guaranteed dollars are half of the total money.
What I struggle with, Guy, on the Christian McCaffrey side, easy deal for the Panthers. They don't look at people like, I can't believe they're giving McCaffrey paying a running. They're not paying him very much money. You would have no problem giving Christian McCaffrey $32 million total. And that's what deals are. And if he's still on the team year 3 into the extension, that means he's killing it, and they're fine with it.
Which, by the way, that's 5 years from now, year 3 of the extension.
That's what you know that Todd Gurley, like Christian McCaffrey, because Zeke last year, right, held out going into his 5th-year option, was not held out and got paid. But he played that 3rd year, that 4th year, where you have McCaffrey and Zeke held out going into his 4th year, right? So he held out going into his
Didn't
4th
miss
year.
any games.
Didn't miss any games, but held out going into the 4th year season. Missed the training camp or whatever. Todd Gurley got paid, same situation, close to Zeke got a little bit more, but he was in the 40s. Christian McCaffrey, who had been less drama than Zeke, who had been more dynamic as a pass catcher than Zeke, and had much less injury history and risk than Todd Gurley, how does he take a number dramatically less than both those guys? And you could say, well, John, it's the baseball argument. You're buying out years of arbitration, right? You're buying out years of because he's under contract for the 4th year, and Gurley, Zeke, they're obviously at the time getting their 5th-year option picked up. So you're buying out 2 years. So, okay, I understand that. So you're not going to get $60 million. But we talk about it all the time. It's just comps. That's the problem for George Kittle right now, right? Who's his comp? Well, the highest paid tight end in NFL history is Austin Hooper. Not ideal for him. If you're Christian, you go, well, it's Zeke and Gurley. And they got paid at the same time I got paid. So, yeah, maybe I'll take a quote-unquote little less. One thing people are tweeting at me, what about economic anxiety that's going on in society right now? And I'd say for most people, that is very true. Here's the difference. For Christian McCaffrey to get what he's owed this year or contracts or whatever, the season's going to have to be played. So if you're signing a contract, you're basing it on the season being played. And if you think the season's going to be played, I couldn't sign this deal. I think this is the easiest contract the Carolina Panthers have ever agreed to in the history of their franchise, guy. I really do.
Again, assuming that the guaranteed dollars, which as of the recording of this podcast, have not become public beyond what Breer said.
To me, usually that's a red flag of that people don't want it. I would say this guy, any number under $40 million guaranteed is a steal for the Panthers, given his impact, given how important he is, given how good he is, given where their franchise is at. You got to spend money anyway. If it's even $16 million a year, that means this year with a $200 million cap, it's 8% of your cap.
Would you spend 8% of your cap on McCaffrey this year, right? He's getting paid $60 million in 3 years when the extension begins.
Yeah, but you give a little bonus money. It hurts the overall cap. But yeah, I mean, it's just, again, Todd
Can I give
Gurley
you one counter?
Todd Gurley never made it to his extension. Think about that. Now, he got the money, but he never made it to his extension.
You know what I was thinking about, though? Remember the greatest running back that Christian McCaffrey's dad played with? Terrell Davis.
Yeah.
And when Terrell Davis was where Christian is now, coming into his 4th year in the league, he is coming off a great, as Harbaugh would say, with a capital G year. He scored 15 touchdowns his 3rd year in the league. His 4th year in the league was off the charts. He led the league in rushing.
Yards?
2,008 yards, 21 touchdowns. Actually did you know Terrell Davis caught 49 balls his rookie year? Anyway. So
he was good.
So his 4th year, he is on top of the world, John. He plays, after that, 17 more games in his NFL career over 3 seasons. I mean, at the end of the day, Christian McCaffrey just guaranteed himself his next 2 years plus over $30 million.
To me, it's not about like financially. Yeah, he's set. To me, it's more about the comps at your position, given how far you're under, and given how your numbers in certain categories are just way better.
Yeah, better.
Where if you were Christian McCaffrey's agent, why would you be arguing to cut them such a big discount? Because wouldn't you go, well, Christian, we are cutting them a discount here relative to your peers.
Yeah, maybe you like being there. Your argument is you don't have to wait 2 years to get paid. You can get paid right now because that's what Zeke did and that's what Todd Gurley did.
I guess my point is I still think that, let's say the number comes out 32, 33 million. If they're willing to do that, I think they would be willing, even at the end of the day, if you're going to make a little less, to get to 40, 42. You know,
every year that goes by, the cap goes up in the NFL.
Yeah, and like you said, it's an extension. He's not an unrestricted free agent or a franchise player, so it doesn't start right now. It behooves them. This is where I'd say if I was his agent guy, it behooves them, even if the number's $45 million guaranteed, to do it right now, because over the next 3 years, actually a deal. He's only 23 years old. Guy,
be 24.
I think it's one of the. I think he's good. He's 24 right now, or 23?
Going to be 24 for this year. So
June. I mean, you're getting him as 24, 25, 26 seasons, which prime of his life. To me, it has a chance to be one of the all-time steal NFL contracts if he just keeps doing what he's doing, even if they win or lose. I mean,
that's right.
He's still a Hall of Famer. So at the end of the day, if you don't win it all and he keeps doing this, you'll be like Christian McCaffrey, Hall of Famer, Carolina Panthers.
I totally agree. You know, our buddy Jeff Schwartz was tweeting about how good he was, and they still lost football games. To me, he is worth the money if he just plays to some level close to what he played this year, and it's on them.
Because the money guy is not that. I disagree with Schwartz too, because what the fuck are you doing with the money? It's not like he's taking $25 million of a cap, or you overpaid some shitty quarterback. The money in 2 years is going to look really small. The problem with Gurley was his number was so high, and then he couldn't play at all. He just couldn't play at all. He couldn't function. Right. Now, that would be the argument. If in 2 years McCaffrey just can't play, then it's just –
But that's a different argument than you don't pay running backs, right? Like, this guy just had a Marshall Faulk level season. Well, guess what? Marshall Faulk had an MVP quarterback with him. So you don't need to get a Christian MVP quarterback, but for this guy to be worth – yeah, he's not as valuable as a quarterback. Nobody is. We know that. But he's every bit as valuable as any other offensive position.
Couldn't you argue the two guys that he became the club of the 1,000, Roger Craig, Marshall Faulk? Who the fuck did those two guys play with?
Yeah.
Joe Montana, Kurt Warner. It's like this guy was playing with Kyle freaking Allen and Will Greer, and he set these. Yeah. Imagine what he'd do with Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe that's what they're saying. Like, God, could this guy go 150 catches and 1,500 rushing yards.
No. John, before we move on, let's tell the people. Time for an ad. This podcast brought to you in part by Raycon. Raycon.com/ham. Raycon's wireless earbuds, so comfortable, perfect for conference calls, binging podcasts like this one. And the beauty, John, they don't have the stems. They look good, stylish, discreet during your conference calls. And they start at about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds on the market.
Yep, took mine on a jog yesterday, a yog. You and I got sent the newest model, the E25 earbuds. They're the best ones yet. Over 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, perfect for music, and a more compact design. Don't fall out of your ears are great. Raycon's wireless earbuds are so comfortable. You really don't even feel them. Unlike some other wireless options, Raycon earbuds are stylish and they look discreet. They're cool, little black ones. They look really good. Obviously started by Ray J, also Snoop Dogg, girl Cardi B, Brandy, J.R. Smith. We got a lot of tycoons, guy, that are part of this this company.
Yep. So now is your opportunity. Get the latest and greatest everyday E25 earbuds. You get 15% off of that order when you go to buyraycon.com/ham. That's buyraycon.com/ham to get 15% off the Raycon wireless earbuds. Buyraycon.com/ham. All right. On to the next, John. Oh, God, I love this topic. I really love this topic. In the ongoing discussion about whether or not NFL games would or could be played without fans, Kirk Cousins has weighed in, Middlecoff. Kirk Cousins said this: honestly, to play without fans would be kind of refreshing, a breath of fresh air, to just let us know that we don't have to have all the smoke and fire and we can just play football. So as long as we're playing the game, I won't have a lot of complaints. And hopefully it's still not returned to normal, but we can find a way to make it work. What?
That's the most embarrassing COVID-19 take I've seen.
Oh my God!
Sports or non-sports.
So
you can't say that. Not after you get a historic contract, fully guaranteed, and then out of nowhere, out of the blue, literally no one saw this coming. You often see the tweet, literally nobody, and then the next comment is something outrageous, like literally nobody. We gotta extend Kirk Cousins.
We gotta lock
for him
this
to
guy
say
up.
this. We can't relate to being a pro athlete, but when you're in the media and you do a podcast or a YouTube, it feels good when you check the numbers, you go, a lot of people listen to this. That's the whole point of this. You do a show. The NFL literally built their business on trying to get a lot of people to watch. And any player worth their salt that you've ever talked to, they say, God, I heard, I think Brooks Koepka say the other day, it'd be really weird to play at Augusta without fans. Like, part of the juice is the fans at these major tournaments. Any football player says the environments, especially once they kind of get to college and they go, God, we played at Camp Randall or we played at LSU, and it's just like, God, it felt big. Or the NFL, you play it against New Orleans or the Seattle. It's what gets your juices flowing. That's the fucking whole point of like going on the road. Basketball players have been saying this forever. For as great as it is to play at home, there's no better feeling than going on the road if you're in college, like at North Carolina or at Michigan or wherever you're playing, and shutting them up. Or the NBA, going for LeBron to win it at Oracle, to shut everyone the fuck up. Like, you just go like that. It's an incredible feeling. Like, it's why we watch. Part of watching some old sports the last month, part of what's cool about it is the fans, guy. The Tiger Woods, the replay the other day on Sunday, watching all the fans in the background, that's what makes sports cool. Now, I'm not saying this is the hand we're dealt and you might have to do this. It kind of looks like that. But no one's rooting for that if you don't have to. And I'm not even talking about how much money.
Is he going to pretend? Is he going to walk and be like, I was just talking about audibles. I don't. It's hard to hear sometimes.
You could argue there is an element there.
But they've got a home field advantage.
Yeah, but I'm just saying on the road. Yeah, you're right. Maybe he
says the smoke and all the fire. Like, it made me think of, that famous clip of Ray Lewis going bananas, like doing his whole dance, and Brian Billick's just in the background, like, how am I supposed to follow that? Like, that's like maybe Kirk just hates starting lineups.
I do think his division, Detroit, Chicago, and Green Bay, I mean, it's a little bit of a collegiate division. You probably hear a lot of shit talk to you, but still, I mean, guy, it's the fucking NFL.
But you can't say, to me, like, this is one of those, like, what? Seriously?
Well, to me, this is one of those.
It'd be refreshing to play without the fans.
If you're like Adam Thielen or Donnell Hunter or Harrison Smith, I'm talking guys on his team that are like, Jesus Christ, like, this is who we're dealing with. Like, this is the guy we've given 87. What did he just get? A $60 million bump? I mean, guy, this is the guy we've given. If you're Daniel Hunter and you're like, I'm the best player on this team, we've given this guy $140 million, and he's bothered by he's going to enjoy empty stadiums. This is who we're trying to win the Super Bowl with. I mean, if you're going to trade for Odell, you might as well call about Aaron Donald. We're going to need a lot more help. This is what we're dealing with. God, that's embarrassing, guy. It really is.
That is the opposite of rise to the moment in a big environment, ready to go to war in the cathedral, in the Coliseum, right? That is the opposite of that.
Isn't there something too that he's clearly a really smart guy? I think he was a straight A student at Michigan State. Like he's a high character guy, but there is a little bit of an out of touchness with him. Like, this is something that even if you believed it, which I would imagine if you and me could talk to 1,000 NFL players, I think it'd be close to like 98%. If you could choose fans or no fans, they would all choose fans. Every single one, I think, would say yes. They want to play in front of people. It's like part of the fun of the sport.
Maybe a center would be like, it would make my life easier. Okay.
Yeah, and even, let's just say, at home, this comment for a quarterback that's making huge money, out of touch.
All right. Opposite end of the spectrum, made for quarantine. Mike Mayock says about a draft in which everyone has to work from home, quote, to be honest, this is kind of what I've done for the last 20 years. Is Mike Mayock the most prepared general manager for COVID in the NFL, John?
I think we all get comfortable in our surroundings, right? You get used to doing something. Even if in your job you don't like doing it, I think the majority of humans are pretty routine-oriented. That's what's been so crazy about this last month. You get up at a certain time, whether you go to work, whether you drop off your kids, what time you eat, what time you work out, what time you do certain tasks during the week for your job. This is a major, major curveball for NFL people. Because it's one of those jobs, it ain't a 9-to-5 job. Most of the coaches and GMs spend too much time at the office. But they do it, and especially if you're a general manager, you have your time mapped out from basically free agent to the draft. You kind of know the ebb and flow of the days and the weeks. Now, he hasn't been doing this for that long. He has been used to being at home, being somewhat of a hermit, and just watching tape on his own of the top players. I actually think you could argue he's the most prepared of anyone for just looking around and seeing his home walls, trying to put together a draft board. I started thinking this morning, like, was he only really talking about the top players? No, when you think about watching him on drafts, like, he could talk forever in the draft. Like, remember, he would get so mad where you and I worked in the league and I get bored in the 4th, 5th round when they'd like put the parrot or the monkey. Remember how mad Mayock would get? Like, are we making a joke out of this whole thing? Because he just wanted to talk about that 6th round pick or whoever, because he had done the work on it. And I actually think,
Yeah, now that doesn't. I don't know that changes anything once the draft starts, because when the draft happens, he would be on the desk talking about players, right? That's where this is different, even for him, a guy that spent all this time preparing from home. Now he might have got a jump start too. Maybe there was just less. He understood how to set it up at home and how he works best and all that. By now, though, as we've seen, like the photo of Tom Telesco with 7 monitors, or the photo with Dave Gettleman with 1 monitor and War and Peace ×2, like 4 versions of the Bible all in one binder. Everybody kind of works, like, clearly whatever they do at the office, they have the wherewithal to take that same routine home, right? The odds are the Gettleman has a monitor with maybe a second larger projector, and that Telesco probably has a big desk with a bunch of monitors in his office. Like, they've recreated their offices. The question is, when it comes time to make a draft pick and you got to do it on your cell phone, there's not 3 phones in front of you, or you've got, what did you tell me the other day, designated people. Half the league calls Mayock, half the league calls his assistant, or, it's not that the Raiders are doing that, but some teams are. Like, that's where it's going to get complicated. But I buy that this guy is just, he's probably been dealing, he's been traveling on the NFL. He's just been traveling in ways that are more normal, just than most GMs have for the last 20 years, right? Just all the little things.
I listened to about 80% of his press conference yesterday, or like his conference call. He said the irony of his setup, because they asked him, like, do you have monitors everywhere? He's like, actually, I'm a little bit more back to the future. It feels more like 1980 in here. He said, I have 3 whiteboards with over 1,000 magnets all over the place. He's like, I wanted to create, and again, this is why I don't crush Dave Gettleman. What Mike Mayock wanted was a tangible draft board. Like you would have, not where he can swipe on the iPad, which everyone has access to, something where you see the magnet with your flags on it, with the 40 times on it, where you can just, I know I'm like that guy. I have binders everywhere. Like I don't type most of my notes besides little blurbs in like my phone, but I write stuff out. And I'm 35. I got iPads everywhere too. I just feel more comfortable doing that. To me, there's not a right or wrong way to do it. Whatever you're most comfortable with. I actually think some of these old school guys, it's a little easier to see it, I feel, than like scroll, because at any moment your iPad could, who knows? Like your whiteboard can't just run out of batteries, right?
Right.
Technology can't phase you with tangible stuff. Like Gettleman has the 7 worn pieces.
The only thing that matters is his evaluation.
Getting the players right, yeah. But also being able to be nimble when guys are coming off. Like, you know what Mike Mayock will do? I'll tell you exactly what he'll do. Because when I got in the league, nothing was digital. It was all magnets. When the first pick happens, Joe Burrow, he'll have his rankings and the players. He'll take the magnet off, throw it in the bucket. So then you just visually see your own draft.
Off the board.
Magnet off, magnet off, magnet off, magnet off. And then you get to your pick. You can see it. And that's what he's most comfortable doing. Mayock, I think we all thought he'd be good. I think he's just really high level guy.
Yeah, I do too. I was telling you before we started this that I miss him, because as a GM, he is not the most vocal front and center GM. Like, he's just not looking for quotes. He doesn't want to be that guy to have his voice out there all the time. It's not part of the deal. When he was on NFL Network, we got kind of more than Mayock is, in that it was just his job to be on TV telling us what he thinks of players. That's not what he wanted to do. He would have. This is what he wanted to do.
I've said it over and over. Most media guys that then get into the team side are still media guys at heart. Like John Hollinger was a famous guy that did it, right? Media guy, got in to run the Memphis Grizzlies, are a big part of it. But now he's back with the Athletic. Like, he's a media guy at heart. It's an easy transition. Mayock, I'd say DJ's kind of like a hybrid. Like, he could kind of do either. Like, Mayock, to me, always, in a weird way, was out of place in the media, had nothing in common with the media. Honestly, hated a lot of the media stuff, which you and I like, most people like, fans and media people, and even GMs like it. They eat this shit up. He hated mock
he doesn't
drafts.
like it now, right?
No,
he doesn't care about the top 5 GM list we did on YouTube.
I think he was made to be on a team, and honestly, I think that's why he got. I bet if you look at his Rolodex, like the guy he truly was calling over the last 15 years, as much as it was GMs, I bet he became really close friends with like an SEC scout, a college director. I'm just talking a guy that he could just geek out with, right? I mean, geek out with, because that's what kind of scouts are. They're kind of geeks about these players, and that's why he has been like wouldn't you say he's a lot different than John Lynch? Even though I think John Lynch has transitioned to the job pretty well.
Yeah, John. Yes, John went to game calling. John wasn't doing the draft.
But I don't even mean the media transition. I just mean his role in being out front and center. And I'm not saying he clearly loves football, but he's just a little bit more of a hybrid.
Yeah,
Can do some
yeah. No, the reason I brought up the media job is just because John's media job was much less labor intensive. It was not, Mayock's media job was a year-round media job. That was not John Lynch's. Calling games, not a year-round job, but the draft is.
Yeah.
Right. Being a draft analyst and then a scout basically is a year-round job. So.
And he was also doing things, his top 50 lists, going to pro days that GMs do anyway,
yeah.
Right?
He would have preferred not to publish them, though. He'd rather do a big board than a mock. I don't know if anyone in the media likes doing mocks, though.
Well, that's and remember he always did his top 5 at position. That's something he took. He's like, I don't want to do mocks. I'll do my top 5.
Yeah. All right, John. What about this? Alden Smith. Here's the question for you. This is an old picture from his comeback. And when I say old, I mean old in quarantine time. It's like a week ago, less than. What? I think you and I agreed because you said this to me the other day. Is Aldon Smith going to be the comeback player of the year? Like if he makes the roster, and is he going to make the roster? And it just got me thinking. The bar for comeback player of the year for Aldon. If I answer that first question with yes, is Aldon going to make the active roster? If he makes the active roster, you would think he'll end up with, if he's just active for 16 games, how many sacks would he end up with? And this is a guy that hasn't played in 4 years. We don't really know what he's got, other than he's still relatively young, and he is, and has always been a physical freak. So how many sacks, is he going to make the roster? If he does, what's the baseline of sacks? And then the third part of that is, whatever that sack number is, what's the bar for comeback player of the year?
I saw an Eric Armstead quote yesterday. Now, granted, I think they only played with each other for an off season and like half a training camp. And I don't blame him because you and I went to a couple of those training camp practices before he got fired, cut, whatever. It was like, Aldon looks incredible right now. He said that Aldon Smith is the best teammate he's ever had as a Niner. Again, they only played like half a training camp together. And if you think about, well, it's like, well, who's he really played with? I don't know. Richard Sherman, a year of Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner. I mean, he's played.
Play with Navarro?
Yeah, but Navarro was hurt,
Yeah.
but still. But I would say just Buckner, like, it was pretty clear, like, Aldon was a freak. He looks like just a Greek god. Even now, he 287. To me, I always felt like he was playing probably 260, 265, a little slimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe his game's going to be a little different. To me, is he an outside linebacker still, or is he more of like a 3-4 defensive tackle? Like, not Justin Smith, maybe a little Ray McDonald-ish. You know, do they put him on the line of scrimmage? Is his game changed because he's not quite as explosive anymore? That'll be fascinating to see. Guy, I have a hard time seeing if he plays 16 games. Like, if he's on the roster and playing every week for the Dallas Cowboys, him not just being like a positive member of the squad.
Sean, think about how many defensive linemen, pass rushers we've seen just as they age and maybe lose a step, still be really, really impactful players over the course of their careers, right?
Well, because what translates? Strength and toughness, and he had that.
And just your ability to read what's happening in front of you, your feel, right? All these things, whatever technique
your size. Part of like Julius Peppers played for 40 years because he was just massive. This guy is massive.
Yeah.
Justin Smith played in his mid-30s because he was strong.
So do you think it's more likely, is it 50-50 or better than 50-50 that he makes the roster?
It's hard to go 50-50 just because at any moment he's proven, he's just hard to trust him staying on the straight and narrow.
Right,
if we're assuming he stays sober and just stays healthy, I think I would go like 90% he makes a roster. Here's my guess for a season. He has one of these. The stats do not do how good Aldon justice or how good he was justice. Like maybe he has like a 4-sack season, but he's just like they're taught McCarthy every week, like what he's doing, not in the box score, holding up blocks and forcing runs the other way, how good he's been with some of our younger guys, how durable he's been. I could just see some like a lot of intangible football stuff.
Yeah. 15
where
games.
It might be hard for him to
15 games, 4.5 sacks. Does he come back player of the year?
No. I think he'd probably need to get like 7, 8. Now, if he gets 6, plays 16 games, and the Cowboys are an 11-win team, and it's just they're raving about him every week, yeah.
I mean, because comeback player of the year, like you could be, we just assume you're the best player that had a comeback. But what if it's like, imagine it like a horse race, and he's just so far behind everybody, and he just comes back and finishes like in the middle of the pack. You'd go, this guy was out of the league for 4 years. His comeback to get to 4 sacks is like some guy coming off an ACL and having 20 sacks, right?
He plays 15 games. He plays 15 games. Starts a handful of them. Over under 5.5 sacks. What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say over. I think he's got like 6 sacks.
You just run into some in the NFL.
I think he gets like 6, 7 sacks.
10 sacks, 100 million% lock of the year, comeback player of the year.
Biggest lock ever. Yeah. That'd be huge.
It would be something that the NFL, I think, would ride. Like, we stay behind our guys, sobriety. Like, we're great. Like, guys, you kicked him out of the league for 4 years.
I know. All right, John, before we get to a couple more rapid-fire NFL talks, another ad. We say thank you to manscaped.com/ham. In times like these, still supporting the podcast, you can support as well. And get yourself the perfect package. The 3.0, this is upgraded and improved lawnmower 3.0 plus. For a limited time, subscribers get not one but two free gifts: the Shed travel bag, which is a $39 value, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped boxer briefs.
Yeah, to me, Guy, the key is with the Manscaped 3.0 is that you never want to cut your balls when you're trimming down low, and that's what this thing does not do. You have it. I have it. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. Also comes with, a little ball deodorant for the anti-chafing.
Oh, yeah.
What I've done is I use it to shave my chest. I use it to shave sometimes my face. Obviously, got to wash it off. Cleanliness. It's the best trimmer I've ever owned, bar none, hands down, not even close.
All right, so there you go. This is what you do. You go to manscaped.com, use the promo code HAM. You get 20% off. You get free shipping. You get the Perfect Package 3.0 with the two free gifts. Get the right tools for the job. 20% off, free shipping. Promo code HAM at manscaped.com. Promo code HAM at manscaped.com. All right. You and I have talked about the Bucs, and we've kind of crossed them off our list of teams that should draft a quarterback because they've got Brady. You just don't know how big the window is. You can only assume the window is this year, if that, right? So they just can't afford to use their first-round pick on something other than a player that can help them win right now. But Albert Breer wrote this: I'd keep an eye on the Buccaneers potentially drafting a quarterback in April, which is weird because he wrote it 2 days ago, already in April. Not unlike when the Broncos signed Peyton and then drafted Brock Osweiler a month later. Couple raw big arm prospects out there. Jordan Love, Jacob Eason, who could easily slip a little. They could use a redshirt year time to develop. So it sounds like he's saying they wouldn't use their first rounder here when he says slip a little, but who knows? You and I both rejected this. We've said you need as many players as possible. But Breer's saying keep an eye on it, so we'll keep an eye on it. And it's not that hard to make the case for it, right?
I don't love the parallel with Denver. Peyton had just signed a 4-year contract, and they were betting on him for, at minimum 3 years. They ended up getting 4. The 4th was a disaster, but he did start the 4th year, and Brock played a little bit. So this one, to me, I know you signed him to a 2-year contract, and you're on the hook for the money next year, but you're kind of just living year to year. So once Tom Brady confirms and signs your contract, has he officially signed the contract?
Yeah, he signed it. Remember?
Yeah, he did. Why is he and other guys hadn't? But you're chipped through the middle of the table. Like, to me, their goal this year, it's like not to be the 7th seed, right? It's to be in a position to win the NFC. Like, hopefully home games in the playoffs, to be a powerhouse NFC team, to win the division, to beat the Saints. So that's where the balance is a little tough. Remember, that Bronco team, they had Von Miller, they had Demaryius Thomas, they had just signed DeMarcus Ware. I think they draft Julius Thomas in the later rounds there. They had just signed Emmanuel Sanders. I think we forget they signed a guy named fucking Wes Welker. Like, they were kind of they had supplemented a lot with free agency. And you could argue the Bucs are kind of equipped right now, especially on offense, but they are missing a couple. They need DBs. They need offensive linemen. Those first couple picks, 14 and whatever the 14th pick in the second round, are really, really valuable to me to get a couple starters. Like Mayock said yesterday, he's like, we got 3 third-rounders. As a general manager, I can't ask for much more. If I do my job, I should get 3 starters.
Wow.
I'd say, yeah, that's a little bold, but I do think it's fair to say 3 third-rounders, if you can get 2 or starters out of the 3 of them, you're in pretty good shape. So if I got a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick, I think you're looking at it, if you're Arians and Light, like I get 2 starters and another guy that plays to go around Tom Brady. Just the team that Tom Brady's leading. We're a quarterback, he's just not playing.
Tampa actually has 14 in the first round. They have 13 in the second round and 12 in the third round. So it's actually slightly better.
Oh yeah, because it rotates when you all have the same record,
Right.
huh?
Yeah. The other part of this is
Like
just
I'll tell you this. Like I think Jacob Eason. I was at the combine. We were having dinner. Arians was a couple tables to my right, and Arian and Jacob Eason came up at our table. And I don't like Jacob Eason just because his style, not that I get the physical traits, but I've watched enough of him last year, saw slow processor. I get why teams are going to like him. He reminds me of someone that you and I were around, Tom Brandstater. Now, better version, but like this big arm, good. Like he looks like an NFL quarterback. And I said, who do you think would draft Jacob Eason? And someone at my table just points, and it's Bruce. Now, this is before Tom. I even think it was before Tom really gained steam might go there. This is where like everyone was like, he's going to go back to New England. I would, to me, drafting Jacob Eason with Tom Brady would parallel Brock Osweiler. Like just a disaster. Now, Jacob is more talented, but I don't know, man. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I heard Steve Kerr back on one of the Book of Basketball podcasts last year with Simmons said that he does not buy that a player becomes in the NBA what he was going to become no matter where he goes. Like he thinks environment is so massive, so critical. Now, you're not talking about guys by and large who played college football for 3 or 4 years, right? So it's a little bit different. But I would say this. If you're the Bucs, as someone who's opposed to them drafting a quarterback, especially with the first-round pick, if you're the Bucs and you've invested in Tom Brady, are you doing the future of your organization a disservice if you don't use Tom Brady not just as the quarterback of your team, but also as a mentor for whoever your next quarterback is? Assuming Tom, that's assuming Tom is willing to help you do that. But are you doing that? Like, are you just missing a golden opportunity if you don't put a quarterback that you think could be the quarterback of your future behind him?
More than fair. I mean, it's a fair conversation. To me, it's about getting the right guy.
Yeah.
Because you would say the Denver Broncos had a golden opportunity with Peyton Manning to have an Aaron Rodgers situation. They whiffed, right? They just whiffed. And I think Jacob Eason, and I agree, environment does matter a lot. He was just in an elite environment with Chris Peterson where high-level guys go to excel. And we've read some of the, immaturity, just some stuff. It's like, God, if you're acting like that with Chris Peterson.
Yeah, you just watch the games too, right? Other than BYU. Make some good throws, but
that's where ideally, like if you told me this, Jordan Love fell to the second round, which seems unlikely, and they got Jordan Love in the second round, I'm all for that.
Or what if Jordan Love's there at 31 and they package, they use their second rounder to move up with a future second or something like that?
Wouldn't totally hate that.
All right, last one, John. A week away from the draft. Draft stories we're tired of. Tua number one on the list or receivers?
I got a text today from a buddy that just said I need the draft to get here so fast. This is a guy in the league. I can't take mock drafts and everyone's an expert on Twitter anymore. And I remember it gets like that. We talk about it for a living, and to me, it's starting to get like that. I told you about a week ago, like, bro, I'm a little too.
You told me you were to it out a week ago.
I'm to it out, and I think sometimes it's not even I'm anti-Tua or anything. Part of his conversation is he just has a polarizing conversation.
Well,
right?
There is a level of unknown to him, and to talk about him, you have to assume something, right? Well, if he's good, it's like, yeah, easy for us to say.
Well, and it gets to where you just talk in circles about Tua. Like, I can do an absolute on Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert's going to be good. I think Henry Ruggs is going to be good. I think Tua, if the hip checks out medically and it's not degenerate and he goes somewhere and he doesn't fall, it's like, I can't do it anymore.
But even if the hip is fine, it's like there is this injury history now that you have to. That's part of the consideration with him.
Small doesn't move that well, but he is good. I think we're being overly critical, but he's just that guy in this draft.
Yeah.
That by a week before, it's like, we have talked about this guy so much. Let's just get here. Because here's what's going to happen really quick with him. He's either going to tumble, like, oh, my God, Tua's there when the Raiders pick at 12. Yeah. Or he's just going to go, like, team trades up and they get him at 3. Oh, the Dolphins moved up 2 spots to get Tua, and it was, like, all fake. So you and I and everyone else that talks about the draft talked about Tua nonstop because that's what you're supposed to talk about and the right thing to talk about, and it was all kind of fake.
Well, get ready, John, when we find out that the NFL season isn't, starting till November. to get even more worn out on Tua. Like, it's not ending whenever this draft is over. It doesn't end next Thursday.
Do you think, if you had to guess right now, I'll give you an over-under 6.5 draft slot. So the between the Chargers and the Panthers, Tua goes. Would you take top 6.5 or bottom?
Yeah,
after?
under. I'd say he's in the top 6 pick.
Okay.
You? Not so sure?
Well, it's one of those you're just thinking about so much. I feel like he's going to tumble like a rock, but maybe I'm just, I don't know.
What else? You tired of the receivers? I'm not.
Let me defend a guy. One thing I'm a little tired of, and again, I'm not saying this guy is Bill Walsh or Ozzie Newsome, but it has just become so easy to shit on Gettleman.
Oh.
And I mean that picture, and it's just the easiest thing is Gettleman's
if you guys haven't seen the
Gettleman.
picture, let me see if I can find the picture.
I mean, it's just Gettleman. I'm kind of rooting for Gettleman, not to like save the Giants or anything, but just to nail this pick and just be like, maybe he's not a bumbling idiot and every Twitter GM could take his job. Again, I'm not pro Gettleman. It's just one of those things that you just read over and over.
Yeah, I think
over how Gettleman is a dummy, and I can't take it.
Yeah, if I could analyze that, it's like you think he might not be good enough to be an NFL GM, but everybody on Twitter acting like they're more capable than Dave Gettleman is kind of bullshit. It's not like the guy hasn't been working in the industry for as long as he's been working in the industry.
What percentage of media know-it-alls could actually do the job, you think, of just in general, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, whatever sport they cover, media know-it-alls, the guys that truly think that they know, would you say less than 5% would even have a shot?
Yeah, because the other factor that never gets discussed is like the pressure that comes with the job, right? Just the scrutiny that comes with the job. That's different than answering the comment. This is again, for the YouTube people, the Telesco 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 monitors, not counting CNN. Gettleman 1 monitor, but very, very nice townhome he's in there. Both nice homes.
Oh, pretty sweet. But one knock I'd have there on Telesco is that like a 40-inch TV in your living room? I mean,
can I give you another knock on Telesco?
Yeah.
Showing you how much he's grinding. If you look very closely at the dining room table, you see what's on the dining room table?
No.
It's a ping pong. There's a ping pong net on that table. Over on the right of the photo, in front of the TV. It's a ping pong net. Now maybe he's at the dining room table, but he's playing ping pong, John. How hard can he be grinding if he's playing ping pong?
Is there a chance no one has a ping pong table in view of their dining room table? I'd be a little shocked. Maybe this is like his man room.
It could be, but he's clearly sitting. The chairs at the table that he's sitting at, it sure looks like a dining room table. I know it does.
I know that's a conundrum. Good spot there, guy. Why would you have a ping pong table in front of where you'd sit and watch TV in the living room?
I don't know.
That's a little bizarre. I got red flags all over Telesco. I got way less flags on Gettleman. So yeah, I can't take much more. Just the wide receivers. I mean, we talk about these wide receivers all the time. The majority of them are going to just be guys. There's going to be like one DeAndre Hopkins in the group. Like, this guy could be Amari. This guy could be Hopkins. This guy's got a little Devontae. I see a little bit of, I see a little bit of Tyreek mixed with Deshaun. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
No.
Poor man's AB.
I think we've done this in this draft with that group more than all the other positions. Like, people are like, I just think Chase Young's a really good player.
Yeah.
Like, Okuda's good. It's just like, I think that Ayuk is like Nikhil on steroids, but he's got a little bit. It's like, oh my God, probably not. I mean, Nikhil, he couldn't hold Nikhil's jock a year ago.
We said it before. I don't know where I think it was on the podcast, but so I won't dive too deep in it. But you just go look historically at drafts at wide receivers. You don't get 3. You just, by and large, there's not 3 of them in the first round guys. There's just usually not 3 or 4 guys that are Pro Bowlers.
I think they become a lot like NBA players because like an NBA draft, because they are the funnest position, right? They're the position that if your team drafts, you're so excited, just like in like an NBA wing. Well, what is every NBA wing? This guy's got a little Kawhi mixed with a little like, younger Paul George.
Yep.
He doesn't quite shoot like Clay,
his
but
handle
the
needs
body
some
type.
work.
Yeah. If he could if he could just improve his he's like, I know he's a 20% shooter. If he can get that up to 45, we got Klay Thompson.
Yeah, you got to understand his team was bad, so everyone focused on him, and he's not a great ball handler or creator.
Yeah, people forget, but I see a little Tracy McGrady in this guy. It's like, Jesus Christ. And then 3 years later, the guy's in the G League, It's like, do you know what everyone was saying about, here's the thing, too. Think about, like, Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, and Juju. Too slow. These guys are not going to be able to separate.
Right.
It's funny, like, the guys that we were negative on the last several years, like, I don't know, Devontae's just, it's in the Mountain West. Is Michael Thomas even the best receiver on his own team?
Here's the other part. Here's the beauty of it. Because they weren't the guy that has to go 12, they were the guy that got to play with Drew Brees and the guy that got to play with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, wouldn't you say that 2 years ago? And
do you think John Ross on the Saints would have turned out to be a slightly different player?
Probably, but I think there's an element of that. Just might have been
it might have been,
risky.
But
yes, I think that's fair. I think his chance to succeed with maybe not even the Saints. I'm just on a team with a big arm quarterback because he does need a guy that can just
mean an offensive, just like a team that, I don't know.
Well, I think quarterbacks also fall into this, and we're nitpicking them all right now. A couple years ago in the 5 quarterback draft, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, 4 guys went in the top 10. We didn't have another guy go 32. Who's in the best situation right now out of that group? The dude that just won the MVP, that went 32nd? It's like, well, he's not making as much money, those. Yeah, I think Lamar's probably getting some endorsements down as coming his way. Life's pretty good. You think he wishes, if he could go back, would he give up going to the Ravens and having gone to the Cardinals or gone to – fuck no.
I say I never understand it. I do get it, like the beauty being the number 1 pick. But imagine being the NBA draft pick. We don't know what the lottery order is yet, but let's just say the Warriors end up with the 4th pick or the 5th pick. Imagine being not the first pick. Yeah. Imagine being one of those guys going, I just want to go 1. Somebody, a premium NBA prospect. I mean, people would argue this draft isn't the most premium.
I know,
but one of those guys is going to go play for the Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Steve Kerr. One of those guys is going to go play with like one of the NBA's historically great chemistry teams with unselfish players, historic shooting talent. One of those guys. Could you imagine being like, I want to go 1 instead of, no, I want to go 4 where the Warriors are or 5 where the Warriors are. Like that is going to be, I think, such a key to success for them this year. Anyway, but same kind of spirit. We said it would be 7 topics, 5 minutes a pop. Yeah, we were close.
Good.
Adios.